Hey everyone, this is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today because we are joined by the one and only Psychic Leota.
Hello, glad to be back.
Welcome back. Happy New Year. We're in the thick of
Mm,
January. Right? I mean, I don't know how we got here, really. It's
it's
crazy.
flying by. I think it's going to be an amazing year, though, so I'm excited.
You feel it? You feel a good year?
Yeah, I feel like everyone got their bad karma out of the way last year, probably last 2 years, and now we're due for some good karma.
I hope so. I mean, the year has started just in a crazy way. So I hope it's just let's get all the bad stuff out in the first week or two, right? And then have just a good year.
Agreed.
Well, to
Hmm.
that, right? I was going to say to that point, like I've said this before, I think January is the best time, beginning of the year is the best time to me for a reading. So everyone needs to go to the Psychic Source and download the app. And it is now it still is $20 for a 35-minute first reading. And you have to click reading now. So that means you can go to Psychic Leota, who's here today. You can go to Psychic Robin. A lot of people are, discovering psychics they love. Someone wrote to me and they said they love a psychic named Annalise, and someone else went to Pandora. So all the psychics are great. And I don't know the last time you and I talked because what I say to you and Robin just kind of all blends together because I can't even remember what I did
Hmm.
yesterday. But, Psychic Source, thank you, thank you, thank you, has now given for a second reading for everyone who has gotten a first reading. Somehow I've gotten Psychic Source to offer now for a second reading half in the bank. So basically, if you spend $50 after your first reading, you get $25 for free. And if you spend 30, you get 15 for free. So that's a great deal too. So because a lot of people are going back now for second readings. And I just want to say because people actually tell me about their readings, they slip into my DMs. The one thing that every single person is it's like the theme that I'm seeing is that people are saying, I really like the psychic I went to. I really just felt like I got the truth, not what I wanted to hear. Three people just this morning have told me that, and they all went to different psychics. I don't know. I really like that. Like, I'm the type of person, even though I'm in LA at the moment, I'm from New York City. I don't want sugar coated. I don't want to hear life is not all great all the time. Like, just please tell me
Hmm.
what you see, what you feel. I want the truth. So I really like that three different people slipped into my DMs this morning alone, and they all went to three different psychics. Because, yes, now that we're on this journey together, everyone is telling me about their readings, and they all three said like that they felt they got like an honest reading, and they all said like it's not exactly what I wanted to hear, but
Hmm.
I understood it. So I don't know. I really like that.
Oh, I love that. And that's the biggest thing is, Psychic Source is going to vet all of their psychics. So everybody reads in a different way. You can get a different experience, but it's going to be honest. It's going to be professional, confidential, and you can really pick the psychic that resonates with you. And can I say that
Yes.
I have actually had a lot of listeners and people from the community calling and having readings with me. And I love all of the people that call me. But specifically with this community, they have been so smart, so intuitive, so fun. So I just want to say thank you to anybody who called in because I've been having a blast reading for everybody.
So a lot of people have come from behind the velvet rope from this chat last time.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow,
And it's been
good.
so nice to connect with everyone.
Good. Well, that is what I like to hear. I am a big fan of it. So, well, keep going, guys. Keep coming back to Leota, Psychic Source. And if you can't figure it out, you could DM me and I am walking a lot of people through how to get to the right first code of $20, which you got to take advantage of that. Well, today we are going to talk about some of our favorite people. I want to start with some two people that have been on my mind. Now, the two people, we could take them separately, but one of them is named Craig Conover and one of them is named Paige DeSorbo. Now, I don't want to give you too much information. We could just start with Paige or Craig or both. Talk to me about each of these people. We could start wherever you would like.
All right, let's see. So let's start with Craig. And like I
Okay.
said last time, if I don't really work with birth dates, but if you have them, you want to give them, that's totally fine because I'm sure you have some listeners who really are into more of the zodiac. But immediately, I really like Craig's energy. I feel like he's incredibly intelligent. I feel like he's very innovative. I feel like he's very caring and feeling for other people. I'm just really drawn to him. I will say that I do feel like he can struggle, I think, with emotional vulnerability, especially in intimate relationships. I think with people outwardly reaching out to people, I would almost guarantee this is somebody that has something to do with a sense of justice or humanitarian work because it feels like they really have a heart for service. So immediately, not to pick favorites out of the two, but I do like him a lot. And then, but it does feel like, yeah, I'm getting a lot of stubbornness from him though. So it feels like he can be a little bit difficult. So this is a romantic connection, is that correct?
Yeah. And then when you say you don't want to play favorites, does that mean you're getting better vibes from Craig than you are from Paige?
Yeah, I am a little bit. Well, and the thing is, it feels very much like Craig. So I grew up in the South, and so it feels like Craig has that warmth and that um that comfort, where he actually really is very conscientious of the people around him. Where with Paige, I still think that she's very intelligent. I think she has a strong sense of loyalty and justice, but I feel like she is a lot more, I would say her demeanor is probably a little bit colder. It feels like somebody who likes to have a lot of structure. It also feels like somebody who is not as agreeable. I'll say it that way. And it does feel like, so these two have split. It also, I'm picking up on a lot of, so it feels like he was blindsided. So were they in a relationship for several years,
Yeah, I
like a longer
think
term relationship?
I think it was 3 years, something like that. It was either 3 or 4 years, but I think three, just off the top of my head.
And I'm also picking up from her. Now, I don't think she's a cheater. I really don't. But I feel like the reason that she moved away from him was because she loved him, but was no longer attracted to him and wanted to be with other people. So I do feel like she started kind of talking to other people and getting interested in other people before the official breakup. And I feel like that may be why he was blindsided because she didn't want to technically cheat, but she did want to start dating someone specifically.
But you don't, because there is some rumors that she cheated. I don't think they're true, but you get a sense that she did not cheat.
I don't think she did. I think she's somebody who maybe has a wandering eye and she's very, I'll say, proactive with her love interest. But no, I think this is somebody who has a very, very strong sense of loyalty. I don't think that she cheated.
But like to your point, because sometimes, emotional cheating is, the worst kind sometimes.
Yeah, I would say so. I also feel like there was, I think in the beginning, I genuinely believe that these people, this is the kind of love affair I think that starts with a really strong foundation of genuine friendship and then goes into more of a physical relationship. So I do believe at one point, especially at the beginning, that it was very genuine. Um, I don't think it's fair to say she had an emotional affair. I think it would be more fair to say that she struggled with the separation without communicating and started to just fall out of love with this person and be physically attracted to other people. So I don't even think she really went as far as having an emotional affair. I think she just realized that she wanted to be connected with someone that she felt more passion and intention for in a romantic way. Um, I do feel like he's blindsided. I will say, even now, I feel like there's a really big imbalance in the dynamic where I think that right now they're both saying that they're friends, but I think she really wants to continue being genuinely friends with him. I think he's going to continue being friends with her until he meets someone else. And I do feel like he's going to meet someone else that has long term potential within the next 12 months.
You do.
I do.
And you don't feel that for her.
I think she's going to date several people. Um, I mean, I get the sense from her that like she really just wants to be out there. I feel like she wants to, both of them, it feels like want to have experiences. I think it was forced on him. And so now he's going to make lemonade. But with her, it feels like she genuinely wants to enjoy being single, dating people, and then decide where she wants to go. So she probably won't be in a long term relationship for the next at least 2 years.
I mean, I've been saying, again, I don't have any psychic abilities, but I've been saying, I bet you that he meets someone like within I gave it 3 months to 6 months, so a year. I
Mhm.
kind of feel it too, actually.
I always try to err on the side of caution because timelines, I don't care what anybody says. Every psychic I've talked to, that's the hardest thing to pin down. And so I look for the longest time estimate and then say it could happen sooner. Um, but yeah, I think you're very intuitive. So I would trust that instinct.
What about like how are each of them doing based on that? Because you know there's public gossip and fodder. Like how is Craig doing? You know, like you say you sense that he was blindsided. Like, is he okay? Is he, like what you say to the media is one thing.
Mhm.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Like, is Craig doing okay with all this?
I think he's doing better. But it feels like he's putting on a brave face. I'm seeing really a lot of surprise and heartbreak. And also a feeling of I don't think she communicated that they were having issues. And so I think that's part of it is he feels like, shoulda, coulda, woulda, what would have happened if she would have actually felt comfortable talking to me about this. But the truth of the matter is I think that they're great friends. I don't think they're well suited in a love relationship. I don't see them getting back together. It feels like she can be very jealous. She can be very distrusting and she needs consistency. And I feel like he's someone who can be very spontaneous and they're stubborn in different ways that clash. And so, yeah, I think he's struggling with it, but I feel like she's moving on.
Do you sense, well, she was just at an NFL game with someone that apparently is just a friend. Do you feel that, it is like you say, they're friends and you don't feel romantic and you don't see them getting back together, but it hasn't been so ugly yet, although, like, do you feel sometimes, when there's breakups and like, do you see this
Mm-hmm.
getting ugly with these two people? Or, are we just moving on? Or do you see, they also, the thing is, they're both in the public eye. So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people weighing in on things. But do you see this remaining kind of above board and tight-lipped, more or less like
Possible.
it has been? Or do you see this getting somehow ugly as the weeks go on?
I don't see it getting ugly. I think that she is going to feel his loss a lot more because I do feel around that same time, probably a year from now, she's going to kind of want to revisit things. I think he's going to be in a relationship with someone else. And I think they're going to remain friends. And I think it's going to be friendly. But I will say, as we get into next year, I feel like as soon as he starts dating someone else, it's going to kind of, I think, bring out the things that he wasn't getting from the relationship. And I feel like it's going to make them just kind of fizzle out as friends, even. I still feel like they have a genuine bond. So I feel like it's the type of thing where they could call each other and ask for favors if it was an emergency and they would both show up for each other. But I think the reason why Craig is still interacting with her the way he is because there's still a little bit of hope that she may change her mind.
And do you think what it will take meeting someone else for that hope to go away?
I do because it feels like right now he feels like this is his person. And I will say this in my experience, and I've been doing this for over 20 years, I think we have soul connections who bring out certain aspects of our energy. I believe in past lives, but I don't think we have one soulmate. And then if that goes away or that person is not a good partner in the mechanics of a relationship, you don't get another connection like that. So I think he's convinced that this was his person. In reality, I feel like they were operating on different levels. So I think he's going to meet someone else that he actually has a more solid partnership with.
And then maybe realize that this wasn't his actual soulmate. And I personally
Yeah.
agree as well. I don't really feel there's just one person for each person in the world.
Hmm.
I mean, I would hope not,
Yeah,
right? And you
exactly.
think, because you mentioned like at some point you think what Paige might have some regret, like she might come back around to like, hey, maybe this was
Hmm.
the person or this could have been.
Yeah, I do feel like this was hasty on her part. But I think, this does happen, unfortunately, to a lot of people where, in a long-term relationship, love, it's like a fire, it grows and it's big and then it kind of simmers down a little bit and then it grows again. So I think that's the issue. I think they hit a longer stretch where there was a lot of comfort and still a lot of love, but there wasn't a lot of passion. And so I think honestly, she jumped the gun, and it's going to give him the opportunity to see that she wasn't the best partner for him.
Interesting. Before we move on, you mentioned that you see him in a relationship with someone else like within 12 months. Do you see this as somebody new, somebody that he already knows, somebody that's already been in his life, is in his life, or do you see this as just like a random person? And, there also was distance with these two. He does live in the South and she lives in New York. Do you
Mhm.
see, yeah, someone, yeah, I guess not even geographics, but just curious if you see it as someone new or someone that he already has come in contact with in some sort.
This doesn't feel like somebody that he is currently friends with. Now, the interesting thing is, I feel like because he has a lot of business ventures, this feels like somebody who is actually involved in the same kind of entertainment or artistic industries that he is, but behind the scenes. And so this feels somewhat like somebody that moving forward, um, he is actually going to work with more. But I don't think it's ever going to be somebody who actually wants to be in the spotlight. And I think that'll work a lot better for him.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'm gonna give up singing that I want this woman named Naomi Olindo, who he already dated, who is also in the spotlight. I think they're perfect for each other, but let's just have Craig be happy whether it's her or not. I got to get off my Naomi train here because I've been pushing it, but nobody else seems to be listening to me. So there you go. Maybe it isn't Naomi. Well, we wish them both of best of luck. Moving on, there's two women. They're kind of related. One is named Jennifer Aiden. The other one is named Teresa Giudice. They're both from the same state of New Jersey. Let's put Teresa on the side for a minute. With Jennifer, anything you feel for her? Without me giving you too much information, we can get into some of the things she's been going through next. But what about her? Anything you feel for her?
Ooh. So she's interesting because I actually do think she has a good heart. It feels like she's somebody who is very family oriented. This does feel like somebody who does struggle a lot with a sense of overconfidence and bravado. Now, the interesting thing that I'm seeing here is the symbol for bravado, not genuine confidence. And so it feels like somebody who has really fallen into what they are and kind of lost a little bit of who they are. So it feels like she wears many hats, but it feels like she's kind of lost herself a little bit. So I do feel like she's struggling with that. But she also wants to keep up this sense of she's perceived as someone who's very confident, very outgoing, very, no nonsense. And so I think she feels a lot of pressure to do that. In reality, I feel like she's struggling with a lot of um, a loss of autonomy, I guess I would say, and loss of confidence.
Does she have a sense of, I guess, well, that's kind of what you're saying, but like, does she have a sense and then just overall of like who she is as a person? Some people are in tune with themselves and others are not.
I guess that's the thing is I think that she sees herself as a mother, she sees herself as a wife. I think she sees herself as a businesswoman. But that's what she is. I think she knows who she was, but I think she's kind of lost touch with herself.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
she's on a show called Real Housewives of New Jersey, which, we're not sure of what's happening with the show. I personally think the show will never be back on the air. And it's on a
Mhm.
pause. It might be back. If it comes back, she's most likely not to be a part of the show. It's probably going to be all
Mhm.
new people, or it may not come back at all. So, she doesn't say this outward, but, I think it's likely that she won't be back. So is that you think, like, do you think she's aware of her situation, I guess? And she might be back. I don't work for the network, but like, you know what I mean? Does she think she's going to be back? Do you foresee good business things coming for her in the next year? Or is she
Yeah,
kind
I mean,
of,
it definitely feels like she wants to come back. I can definitely see that she's really dependent on that recognition and that spotlight. I I don't, what I'll say is I can't really tell if the show is coming back or not, to be honest with you. But I feel like if they bring her back, it will be because for the controversy and the drama. And I don't think she would be a main character. It feels like she would be some kind of guest, either on this show or another one. But it feels like she's rubbing people the wrong way because it feels like somebody who is jumping the gun and representing that she has all of these things going on and she doesn't. And I think it's pissing off the people who actually run the network and the show. Um, it also feels like I think a lot of people not wanting to work with her. I think that this is majority of this is PR, but I do think that she can be difficult to work with. So it feels like she's burned a lot of bridges.
And also, like, if you're putting bravado out to the world and acting like you have all these things, but you know you don't, and I don't mean
Mhm.
material things, then internally, like, right? It's almost like, what's the word? It's almost like not fraud, but it's almost like imposter syndrome is what it is, I think.
Yes, very inauthentic. And it just, I would say, socially tone deaf. It feels like she's not understanding how she's being perceived. And I do feel like she has strong, I would say this is probably a husband or a brother who is trying to like give her input and she won't listen to anybody. So she is the architect of her own unhappiness.
She has a husband and a brother. I mean, how is her husband? I mean, like, is he like, do you see a happy marriage here? Like, what do you see about her home life? Because she does have a husband and she has five kids, four or five kids. You see the details really blend a little bit for me too. At least four kids. I think she has five kids. I guess I should know
So it,
this, but I don't.
probably five. It feels
The
like a
devil
lot.
is in the details, but sometimes I'm not in the details.
I think it's probably five because this
You
feels
think?
like a, hmm and it also feels like she's been with this husband for a long, long time. Same husband, same father. I am seeing infidelity in the past. I do not see infidelity now, so that's a good thing. I think the biggest issue is, and I actually think they've resolved a lot of those trust issues because this feels like it was a long, long time ago. I think her husband is actually a good husband. I will say, I think he is very intelligent, very rational, very logical. This feels like somebody who, um, she's a very emotionally person, emotionally reactive, and very headstrong in her statements and her beliefs. Whereas I feel like he takes more of a scientific approach, and he's very research oriented, wants to kind of think about things before he acts. And I think it's very actually hurtful to him that he's intelligent. I think he's accomplished, and she doesn't listen to his input at all. So he feels very disrespected and unheard.
That's not good.
No, I think they'll end up staying together. Like, I don't get the sense that he wants to leave,
You don't?
but they're, nah. But I mean, that's not uncommon. Like, a lot of time when I read for men, like, it has to be really bad usually for a man to leave the relationship. So that's not uncommon. Um, but yeah, I think there is going to be a distance though. I wouldn't be surprised if this turns into a couple that has like two different properties.
Well, a lot of things you said ring true personally, because, well, first of all, he did have an affair in the past. And I mean, it was on the show, it was brought out. It was a long time ago. So when you say that, that hits right on the head. It is, like you said, they've been together for a long time. He is a smart guy. He is a doctor, he's a plastic surgeon, and he is way more reserved and methodical. You just question sometimes, do you like what she's doing? Because look, sometimes, not to be stereotypical, whether it's a guy or a girl, there is one person in a relationship who is, very stoic, and you would think, God, they must be embarrassed by the person they're with, but they actually find it very amusing. But I mean, there are a lot of people. So, I mean, you're saying no, this bothers him and he doesn't feel heard.
I think he's mortified by her behavior, to be honest with you. But I will say, I think he genuinely loves her. So I don't think he's going to leave her.
I could see that. And it's funny you mentioned two properties because their house is in Paramus, New Jersey, and it's very big and has 16 bathrooms. But there's a joke there. She has a pool house out back, and he does come home and go right to the pool house. So there are days where he sleeps it's like his man cave, but there are days where he just stays in the pool house, which is like a separate property. So it's
That may be
interesting to
saving
see
the
that.
marriage. Hey, if it works for them.
I mean, the poor guy, though, that he's mortified by her behavior, as you say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not
It
good.
it feels very public, and I don't know if that's a function of the show, but like, yeah, I do feel for him.
I would imagine sometimes if there's things there and then there's no more show, it could almost intensify. Like, I don't think no show, well, now you're not as showy, but it could go the opposite way. No show, and now,
Hmm.
well, what is there and why are you doing this on Instagram? Like, she acts out on Instagram. She just had an incident recently.
Oh, oh, that's awful.
She
Yeah.
did a
Yeah.
video and it kind of went viral, and it's like, well, you're not getting paid for this, so what are you doing? Like, this isn't, it's one thing if you're.
So she posted it herself.
Yes, she went on a rant about
Oof.
someone making her a sandwich. And she said the woman was taking too long. The woman, she says, this woman's 80 and why is she even working? And I'm paraphrasing. The woman
Oh.
wasn't 80, by the way. She was like 62 or something, which you could see just by looking at her. And she went on a complete
Hmm.
rant, and she has her own side to the story, but she did post it. And apparently he wasn't happy with her posting it, and everyone else is just wondering. She posted it because the person behind her was being rude while she was getting upset for the sandwiches, and she says that she posted it because she thought people would say, "Wow, the guy behind you was being really rude." She kept changing the order, like, "Wait a second, I want that one large. I said mayo, I really want mustard." Like, it was that type of order. And then at the end, she wanted to add a tuna sandwich, and the woman behind the counter is like, like if you go to Starbucks and like you order your drink, but then you have to like move
Yeah.
along. Like, you get your beverage or your food at Chipotle, like at a different area. So once you check out and you paid and you're waiting for your food, you don't just add it to this. You have to go back to the register. So when she went back, the
Hmm.
woman was like, "Look, you have to get in the back of the line." And she said things like, "I'm a celebrity. You don't know who I am, blah, blah, blah." And then the
Oh
woman
God.
said, yes. And then the woman said, "Well, just if the guy behind you is okay with you cutting the line and adding a tuna sandwich, okay." And the guy was like, you're not cutting the line. We just witnessed all this bullshit." And she's like, "I can buy you 10 times over. My husband has so much money, blah, blah, blah." And then that's when this whole thing started. And so she posted it, she said, thinking that people would say, "What a evil, mean guy behind you, not letting you cut in line." And yes, it had the total opposite effect. No one thought this guy was mean. They all thought that she was completely unhinged and arrogant.
What a stupid reason. And from what I'm seeing, it feels like it's had negative effects on both her marriage and her professional life. So that's just tone deaf. That's what I mean when I say completely tone deaf.
She's got to just put a pin in it. We'll
Hmm.
put Teresa aside for today because we have some other things to get to before we wrap up. Let's talk about these two people are not even on Bravo, but it's Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. They're two people, they're in the public eye. They're both famous. I don't know, if you know of Blake Lively, I mean, many people do. Justin Baldoni, maybe less so. But so it's a man and a woman. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. What are your cards, and what is everything telling you about them?
Let's see. I mean, so I am seeing scapegoat. Blake Lively is interesting. I think that she has two sides, and it feels like one can be extremely loving and very kind, very charming. The other side, it feels like, is rather insensitive. And I'm also seeing the symbol for exploitation from her. So it feels like she is not afraid to exploit sensitive topics for her own benefit. And speaking of tone deaf, I'm going to say again, it feels like somebody who may be socially tone deaf and not really understand how she's being perceived all the time. I don't see generally that she has malicious intent, but it definitely feels like she is trying to throw um, Justin, is that his
Yeah,
name?
yeah,
Justin under the bus because she was having negative. It feels like people were perceiving her negatively. And so then she tried to paint herself as the victim by throwing him under the bus. That's my perception. And the connection between the two of them, it definitely feels like it's soured for him. Um, I feel like I mean, he's not the best guy ever. He's not the worst. But in this situation, I actually feel like he's kind of the one that is being um, slandered or attacked. Does that make any sense?
You do. You feel that he's more of the victim in this particular situation between the two of them.
And I also feel like he was caught off guard because it feels like he felt like there was like a flirty, friendly thing going on between the two of them. And then I feel like she started to get negative feedback and then she flipped it. And now she is, I think, misrepresenting the interactions that they had in the past.
Well, there's she is suing him first. I mean, they worked on a movie together. The movie came out. Yes, there's a lot of he said, she said. She claims that there was sexual harassment and there was kisses in the script that lasted too long. And he was also the director of the movie. Like he bought the rights, but he's an actor that's of well less status than her, as far as like a name and money, so she's saying sexual harassment. She's saying that they tried to do a smear campaign on her. He's saying that she don't want to promote the movie and relegated him to a basement at the premiere. There's a lot of he said, she said. There's
That
a
doesn't
lot.
make sense. So if it's, I mean, this is not psychic me, this is just me hearing what you just said. If he's the director and he's one of the stars, why would he want to do a smear campaign on the co-star? Like that doesn't seem to make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense. I think that she started to distance herself from the movie like she was contractually obligated. So she did the movie, whether she felt these things like a kiss that lasted too long. She said that he also talked about like past like a porn addiction and like showed her pornography. One could argue that some of this was it was a role. It was also a movie about like domestic abuse and all that. But when it came out, she distanced herself and didn't want to do promotion. Now, I also don't understand how that works because it's in a lot of contracts that you have to do certain promotion. But she started to distance herself from the movie. And so that's where she's saying, and she's revealing screenshots and emails. His side is saying, like, these are like doctored, taken out of context screenshots and emails. Like, so she's saying that they said, him and his publicist, like, let's just smear her because she's like distancing herself from the movie. She's almost smearing the movie as not a good
Hmm.
experience and wanting nothing to do with it. So let's smear her. This is kind of a very top line approach. I agree. It doesn't necessarily help, although I think all of this has just helped the movie because I
Hmm.
mean, I know people that have gone and seen the movie online or
Hmm.
wherever it is just because of all of this. I don't know if I'm at that
Hmm.
point, but I can tell you I never would have watched this movie before. And now perhaps maybe one day I will. It's on my list, but
Hmm.
it's like way down on my list just because I have lots of other things I'd like to watch first. But it does intrigue me to see it. So I don't think this hurt the movie. But there's all of that. And then the New York Times did a whole piece. And now Justin is suing the New York Times for libel for like $250 million.
Hmm.
Do you feel there is this other man named Ryan Reynolds, who I don't know if you know of him. He's a really famous actor. Right. So you're saying yes. So he's married to
Yeah.
Blake Lively. So, like, do you feel his presence in any of this? Like, is this, you say maybe she's misrepresenting stuff. Is this, like, look, if you truly feel violated and harassed, great. I don't want to shame any victim. But do you get like there is this, I mean, a husband could be like, well, that kiss did linger too long. Like, I mean, do you get a
Hmm.
sense of him in this? He has nothing to do with the movie, just that he's married to
Yeah.
Blake. Or, maybe a husband that's his goal. That's a great, perfect marriage
Yeah.
that you should always have your wife's back. Like, where do you see this? I don't want to lead you in any way.
I know who Blake is now because I love Ryan Reynolds.
Right? So you know
Um,
her now.
yeah. And actually, now that you say that, and I know who that is, and I live under a rock, but I do remember hearing online and seeing some of my friends being really upset because she released like cocktails in theme with the movie, I think, and it was about domestic violence. And so they felt like that was really insensitive and exploitative.
That's the thing. Like when
Um,
you said that earlier, right? She did certain product placement in her own product throughout the promotion of the movie, and that got her, a lot of people were not happy.
yeah, that's not great. But as far as Ryan Reynolds, he is very, very conscientious of um, his PR and how he's viewed publicly. And I actually think he's really intelligent. Um, I get a good energy from him, and it's not just because he's gorgeous. But it does
Because
feel like
Justin is pretty gorgeous too. They're both gorgeous.
okay. But I do feel like he is supporting his wife privately, but I really don't feel like he has a hand in this. I don't think he's egging it on. I think he's kind of walking that line. I actually feel like privately, I think that it's a little bit like the situation we were talking about before with the woman who posted the
Jennifer.
the sandwich video. I feel like Ryan has really kind of tried to give her a heads up, and I feel like she feels like she knows better than everyone, so she's moving forward. And I don't want to like demonize her, but honestly, I feel like it's a matter of ego and her just not taking any kind of advice. And also, I don't like how I don't like people who, in hindsight, kind of rewrite what happened to fit their, you know, narrative or what works best for them. And I do kind of feel like that's what's happening here. That I honestly don't feel like Ryan is doing anything that oversteps what any husband should do for their wife in a tough situation.
Revisionist history. That's what they call it
Hmm.
when you
Yes.
try to
Yeah.
rewrite the facts. Right. So you don't feel this is like him or any, like he's kind of just, and you almost feel you see similarities, and although different between him and Bill Aiden, who's Jennifer's husband, of like Ryan's kind of like, I don't know about all of this. Like he's being a supportive
I think,
husband.
yeah, I think Ryan Reynolds is very charming. He's very attractive, but honestly, I think he's underestimated for how good he is at having a finger on the pulse of pulp culture and what people perceive and what people want. He's a master of fame, I would say. And for her not to listen to him, I think that she's really squandering a strong resource.
Like she's just taking matters into her own hands, and this is, we're doing it her way.
Hmm. Yeah. And honestly, I don't feel like anything is going to come of these lawsuits. I think it's all kind of, he doesn't want to be seen as somebody who is painted with that brush of, sexual abuse or being harassing towards his lead actress. And she also, I think, doesn't want to be painted as somebody who is insensitive. And so I think this is kind of her attempt to be the victim and his attempt to say, no, that's not accurate. And to be honest with you, it is drawing a lot of attention to the film. So I think at the end of the day, I don't see it going forward. I do feel like he is going to settle with the publication, but I don't see the two of them actually pursuing legal matters.
And do you see this as being an end? Look, I don't think Ryan Reynolds' career is ending anytime soon. Do you see this as like an end of a career for either, I guess, either of them? I mean, I think Blake is married to Ryan, so I'm not sure. I mean, he could just buy the rights to a movie, produce it, and hire an actress to star in it called Blake Lively. I mean, there are some
Hmm.
factors there. So I don't know. But getting parts might, like, do you see her being affected by this? Do you see him being affected by this? Like there was something similar with like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. And I mean, it did have, I don't know long term, but it has had at the moment kind of ramifications on each of their careers in a way.
Hmm. Oh, I was addicted to that trial. Let me tell you that.
See, I wasn't.
I-
I really just blacked out the whole thing. I care more
Mhm.
about this. I wasn't into, like, I just skipped over all of that. I didn't read it, but people were
Yeah,
very invested. Yes.
I usually don't, but something just flipped in my brain and I was addicted. But anyway, with
So, like,
this,
Johnny Depp isn't working. Now, I don't think he needs to ever
mhm,
work again. Amber Heard isn't working. So it's like it has affected their careers. I mean, at the moment.
yeah, I will say I think it's affected Amber Heard's more. But to answer your
Yeah.
question, I think Blake Lively, I don't see this long term affecting either one of them. Now, I think Blake is probably going to step back. It also feels like she genuinely wants to focus on her family and her children. It looks like she has a few. Um, but I think she's going to kind of focus on other things to kind of rebuild that public image. Now that I do think Ryan Reynolds is going to have a hand in kind of helping her because I think she's going to listen to him a little bit more. But I would say in the next couple of years, she's going to come out with something else. Like she's not going to be gone that long. As far as Justin, really don't see this slowing him down a whole lot. Like, nah, I don't, I don't see this being substantiated really. And so, and it looks like all of these people are painfully attractive. So I think they're just still going to
Yes.
be doing fine. Yeah.
Yes. And this was kind of Justin was on a TV show before. And so Jane the Virgin, like this kind of is his big moment, so to speak. Like it's not like he had such a
Mhm.
big career, although I knew of him. And yes, they're all three of them are insanely attractive. So there's got to be
Mhm.
something in Hollywood for all of them. Well, once again, like we have so many more topics. The next time you are back, I can just scratching the surface. Everything was so accurate. I mean, a lot of it, and very interesting too. I mean, very like I'm curious. I'm so curious to see where Paige and Craig end up. Everyone needs to go to the Psychic Source. Really, I love a reading any time of the year, but I really do love it in the beginning of the year. And people keep asking me. There's a lot of different types of readings. You could be looking for someone that has passed, and hoping to connect with them, or just wanting to see if anyone came through. I always like the business readings. That's just my personal. But a love
Mhm.
reading, like right, we could have every type of reading, and there's a lot of different types of psychics, and it's all your first reading is $20 for 35 minutes. And you don't have to stick with one psychic. If you're 5 minutes in, 3 minutes in, and you're just not feeling the vibe, you can end it, and then you have the rest of that money left over.
Exactly. And I would say my extension is 3587 if anyone wants to reach out to me. But I love all of the psychics. They all connect differently. And one tip I would give is to maximize your time. When I do a reading with my psychic, I take notes and points of things that I want to touch on. And you can jump from topic to topic within one reading. So yeah, just have fun.
So you can like sit there and say love, okay, and then you're hearing and you're like, all right, I'm over that. Let's just thanks. Let's switch. Let's career like this and that. So you could just do all that
Yes,
within one reading, okay. And like I
exactly.
said, for anyone who has already had their first reading, which is a lot of people because people love to tell me about their readings, which is great. I love hearing about it. Now we have a second reading. Thank you, Second Psychic Source. You get 50% for free. It will just be in your bucket in your database when you sign up. So that's, I mean, I would get a reading every day if I could, if I had the time. I love a good reading. And I
Mhm.
also like when I hear something like that is not necessarily what I want to hear, but I'm like, I agree with everything you're saying, and I kind of need to hear that. So I think it's great to hear other people in my DM saying that this wasn't just like a kiss
Mhm.
my ass, tell me everything I want to hear reading. I felt like I got what I needed, but it was a lot of the truth and it resonated. So I love that.
Exactly. There's no good or bad readings. There's no good or bad information because at the end of the day, you decide what becomes reality. It just empowers you to make changes if you don't like what you hear.
I love it. Well, listen, you'll be back soon. Thank you so much. Thank you for spending, time with all of us. And again, what was your
Thank
extension in
you.
case people want to find you?
3587.
They can reach out to you. Awesome. And enter code Velvet and you just click reading now. And that is how you get the $20. So take care. Sorry to keep you. Thank you so
Take
much.
care. No, I enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.